name is Vladimir Doboš. I'm born in Belgium. My father was Ukrainian and my mother is from Slovenia. I have a very good contact with Slovenia. I'm the CEO of IPTE. I'm also a shareholder and I was in the beginning there as one of the founders of the company. The company was founded as ITE, but now it is IPTE, Integrated Production and Test Engineering. We are an engineering company with multiple branches, with multiple daughters. We do engineering, we do test solutions, we deliver solutions, automation solutions, and we integrate them in the full project. Our mission is to be a global player, but we do want to be independent. We don't want to be linked to another group. We still have the decision power in our hands, and we want to be an automation partner. Now, also partner is a nice word because we like to be that. However, sometimes we're just a supplier. I was working in Philips, and before that, I was in Alcatel, and I did my studies in Leuven as an engineer for electronics. So I was working the first year in the technical side. After joining Philips, we are developing automation solutions for the Philips factories. And in these days, Philips still had a lot of factories, but what we saw is that the production facilities of Philips were decreasing. Philips wanted to get rid of all their investments in production methods, in production lines, and they wanted to become a marketing and a sales organization. Philips was going down, and we saw that, and at a certain moment we said let's try it by ourselves and let's conquer the world with our solution. So in '92 we started with 5. We went fairly quick to turn 12, 13 persons. And we started under the name Integrated Test Engineering. Test Engineering because that was the specialty what we had. Now we put our own savings together. We asked the same amount for the banks. And with that amount, nowadays, if I calculate it in euro, it was about 250,000 as a total. But in that time, it was, of course, relatively more. We could live for 10 months. And then the job was to find the projects which we could realize because we knew how to do it. Now, then I discovered the real world. It's different if you come at a customer with the name Philips or you come with the name ITE. We had success after a couple of months. And there was a first project, not in Western Europe, Eastern Europe. And then there became another one and another one. And slowly we went off. It became very clear, and that was already the first 2 years, that we would not be successful if we would stay in Belgium. And why are we in Belgium? Because we were Belgian citizens. So we went to the UK. We started IPTE UK, ITE UK. There was no talking about Brexit. There was no talking about big plans to have border taxes. We just saw a possibility there to create a lower cost entity because UK was lower in salary price at that moment. We went to Germany, Nuremberg. We had the chance to acquire a part of Grundig Automation, which was supplying machines to Grundig. We started in USA and in France because we saw some customers there which were interested slowly in IPTE. Nowadays it is IPTE. 98, Asia Pacific, which was actually Singapore. At that time, there was a lot of business in Singapore. Nordic, clear. And then in Finland, there was an interesting customer which is called Nokia. So we focused on that. But what we saw at the end of the 90s is that we ran out of cash. Now, cash is that important. Tell you, when you start a company, it's one of the most important things which I also had to discover. What was the plan? We wanted to keep the company in our own hands, but we were too small to go on the listing on a public offering. Means we wanted to make the company public, as we didn't want another shareholder to step in. By doing that, we would probably lose the control of the company. So what we did is we acquired another company, Connect Systems, about 60 million. We were also about 60 million, and total under 20. We could issue a public offering. That was then would be listed on the Euronext under the name IPTE. That was a nice thing at that moment. It was just because the crash of the Euronext. We could pay off all our loans and we had the money to go further. And that went well up to 2008 when there was a crisis. I don't know if you remember that, but the crisis hit very well our automotive customers also. So there was an investment stop. And the board of the total group, so IPTE, under the name IPTE, including Connect Systems, decided to sell off again automation. In the meantime, automation has been grown, but Connect Systems grew also, so we were a bigger company. If you sell part of a public company, you have to do it also publicly. So there were some parties interested in automation, but also myself and my partner, Vibaren, who's actually the major shareholder, we proposed to take over automation privately. Our intention was to continue the business, not to split it up and sell some parts, which the others were intended, but to continue it. Eventually, the decision was that we could take it over and that we could continue it. That was the start of a reorganization, because we knew where the costs came from. So we reorganized IPTE, now an independent company, and the economy helped us when we started, because there was a restart generally of all the economy. So this combination made that we were already profitable in the first year. And profit, I don't need to tell you guys, it's also important if you do business. So we extended our competences. We still did some small acquisitions, but we grew up to a level of 100 million plus. What was happening is that Connect Systems, Connect Group nowadays, was still listed. Slowly, we took over the shares from the Euronext, and we became a major shareholder of Connect Systems also, Connect Group. So in 2019, we decided to do a bid on the remaining shares of Connect on the Euronext, and we succeeded. And nowadays, Connect Group is a daughter company of IPTE. I mentioned that because in the meantime, Connect Systems is a major business, has become a major business, and I want to show you some information about Connect Systems also. I'm not involved in Connect Systems as a CEO, I'm just involved in the decision-making of IPTE as factory automation. Our plan is to grow still also automation to a level of 50 million, no, to 150 million. Summarizing IPTE, so the automation part, we are in 12 locations in Europe and worldwide. These 12 locations are in fact independent entities who do engineering and who build and deliver directly to customers. They don't do all the same. We have test engineering entities, we have assembly entities, so there are specialities in these different entities. We have more service stations. You have to imagine that we deliver not only here locally around this location, but we do it over all the world. We even are in Terra del Fuego, we are in Korea, we even have in Australia machines from IPTE. So it is important not only to supply the machines, but also to keep them working, or at least bring them to work. It's important that the customer also gets familiar with what we deliver and that he takes over the ownership. So the service stations are very important if to achieve that goal. We have a lot of engineering staff, 43%, which means that an important part of our team, of our total team, are engineers, are technical people. And I already want to mention that we are looking for more technical people. It is not evident, it is not so easy to find the people which first like to work in such an environment as we are, which is a relatively high-tech environment, but also has a kind of speciality in our sector. So most of the cases we have to educate, get the people, get experience in our business. We have 870 people, maybe already 900, because we are hiring people at this moment as the business is again revamping. In 2019, we had 125 million turnover. Last year, 2020 was less. I don't need to explain why. We had 110, but this year the outlook looks that we will go back to the 2019 situation and even better. I guess that we are growing. The order entry and the projects what are coming are indicating that we will go over the 125 million. What do we do? What business units do we have? A business unit test, which is a lot of electronics behind it. We test pressures, we test electronics, we test signals, a lot of things which are to be tested when you produce a product. I just showing you just a product that has been assembled on our machines, on our line. Now, if you put this in a car, in this case, this is a component for a car, you have to be sure, and that counts also for televisions or for mobile phones, before you deliver it, before you integrate it in another step of the product, the final product, what our customers are making, you have to make sure that this thing is functioning correctly. If you don't do that, and you always will find you will have always mistakes because something is wrong, then you have dismantled the next product and take it out and repair it and do it again. Now that disturbs the whole flow of the production. To avoid that, you need to find the mistakes as soon as possible in your production process. So we have a test department which can give you the solutions for that. Systems is a business unit which has developed and is still developing standardized machines. What does that mean? A standardized machine does a certain function but a certain flexibility for different applications. Especially if you go to a printed circuit production, you need to mark PCB, printed circuit, the PCB. You have to put components on it. You have to cut it in pieces because there are multiple components being made. And these machines, these functions that I described are realized in the division in the business unit systems. The last one, the assembly, that is, let's say, more than 50% of the business what we do. Assembly means that we put parts together and make a product finally coming out of that line, which can be this, but which can be something else. So this assembly part is also a specialty of, let's say, 5, 6 of our locations. This is another way of presenting it. We have the business unit test, we have systems, and we have assembly. And the icons, what you see beside it, these are the processes which we can do. I'm not going to explain you all this, but if you take systems, for instance, you see on the picture units or machines. In these machines, you can have the things, the functions which are mentioned below the icons. It goes from simple conveying to depaneling to dispensing to lasering, laser marking. When you produce a printed circuit board, it has to be given a number, an identity, especially if this printed circuit board goes into a car. The car manufacturers are obliged or are asking to have a number on each component in the car. Why is that? Because then in the case that there is something wrong and they have to recall 100,000 cars, then they can trace all the parts which are wrong so that they know exactly on which machine, on what date, in which location it has been produced. So all these parts have to be marked, numbered, identified. That's the reason why we sell also a laser marking machine. And then below there is the assembly. And this all comes together to the circle, which means we identify customers, we go there and we propose what we have, we go into the discussion with them and then say, what do you want? How is your concept? What do we have to offer? Where does it match? And if there is a match, if they say, yes, go, this is a project, then we start the engineering of it, we start building it, we start to purchase all the parts, and then we realize it in IPTE in one of these locations. Customer comes for a pre-acceptance, for a first acceptance. We ship it, we install it at the customer, wherever it is in the world that he is, because our customers are also looking for places all over the world. And then we have to make it working. And when it works, then they have a final acceptance, and then we get 100% paid. And then the service comes afterwards. This is the way IPTE factory automation is working. Where do we sell? The automotive. Roughly 75% of our business goes into the automotive business. It's not because I always like it, but because it's an industry where automation is a must. If today's cars would be assembled manually, then there would be not too many cars really running on the street, because the quality of a car is the combination of the total. And if you see the complexity of today's cars, it is huge. So if you don't control that, if you don't do it in the same way, on the same process data all the time, then the failure rate would go up tremendously. And also what I said before, the traceability, going back in time and see which component is failing in which car and what, that is also an important aspect of the automotive industry. Industrial market, it's not so big. We have industrial applications. For us, it's important, but not really growing. Healthcare, important, because people get older, they will get more medical equipment at home, but also with the doctors. I'm not talking about really the medical industry, because there you need some certifications to sell your equipment. We don't have that. And to go in really for these certifications would mean an enormous investment. But there are a lot of equipment. There's a lot of equipment like blood pressure meters, like electrical thermometers, which are coming in households. And the quantities grow tremendously, which means, again, you cannot produce it manually. You have to do some kind of automation there. Computer and periphery. Yeah, I must say that that part became a little bit smaller as all the business, as all the industry for computer and periphery went away to the Far East. There are not any, as far as I know, not any bigger producers of really equipment like PCs, like laptops here remaining in Europe. I say Europe because this is the main domain, the main area where we are. It all disappeared. The same as with consumer electronics. When I was in Philips, we still hope to have other businesses in the consumer, other market in the consumer, but it all went away. There is something left in Eastern Europe, but most of it is in Japan, China, Korea, and maybe nowadays also in Vietnam. Telecom, a little bit the same story, not completely. Mobile phones, there's no one producing mobile phones in the Western world anymore. I have nothing against having customers in the Far East, but it is much more difficult to acquire them. And the way to do business with them is also another way of working than here in Europe. So I also don't speak Chinese. In that sense, we limit ourselves to the Western world. What is remaining here is the base station. If you have a wireless network, you need, certainly for 4G and especially for 5G, you need millions of base stations. Now, who is producing that? Nokia, Ericsson. So there is a part of our customer base. And then last one, but very important nowadays for us, is the e-mobility, the electrical car. Cars will change from mechanical combustion motors to electrical drives. That is something which is linked to the CO2 emissions which OEMs have to pay for. One push to go for that. The other push is certainly the greener thinking which we all have to go for electrical cars. So this together is our market, but 2/3 of it is automotive. I'll specify this a little bit more, not too much, but you see automotive electronics, which was the start of our business in automotive, and that goes from, for example, this is a drive unit, a control unit for the electrical motor, which is part of the electrical car. So there is power coming in, and this is connected to the motor, and it connects also to the wheels, which are driving a hybrid or a full electrical car. This is where we are. I've told you before, it's not that everybody does the same. We have some speciality. This altogether is about 870 people. And you see that we have quite some locations in Europe. It's Genk, where I am at the moment here in Belgium. 110 people in Belgium. It's not the biggest because in Germany we have about the two locations together is about 200 people. So you see already where the focus and the market is. It is German oriented, and of course that comes because there is a lot of automotive activity over there. We are in Spain. We are in Novar, Portugal. Important because Portuguese they speak also in Brazil. Brazil is the country of the future, but we still hope that it will come. Spanish, important because a lot of Latin America is Spanish, so we have the possibilities to speak. And also we have an entity in Mexico, which can do, let's say, the lower cost solutions. Also in Atlanta, in the US, important because, and certainly at the moment, because we believe that there will be a shift from production, generally was done in Far East and then shipped to Americas. That part of it, or let's say certainly the future-oriented products will be created, will be produced again in US, Mexico. But we are also in France and also in China. China is a very big market. As I said before, we are not really targeting the Chinese customers for a lot of reasons, but there are a lot of European companies producing there. That is a potential market, of course, for us. So in total, it should be 12 entities altogether. This is an extract of customers, and I took here the automotive customers. You see that the OEMs, BMW, Volkswagen, Porsche, the Skoda, and there are more. I just took some of them. And then you have the tier one. The tier one are the companies which are supplying complete systems to these OEMs. A system is not only a component, but is a mixture of different components which can work together. And then we have, of course, the tier two and others. As I said, this is just an extract. I think we have quite some more. I would like to show you a video. It is a video for an assembly of a cream dispenser. There are some equipment. There's an apparatus that you buy for the bathroom, which dispenses automatically the soap on your hand if you put your hand in that machine. So that machine has a dispenser. The dispenser is the part in that machine which puts the fluid on your hand. So in that machine, there is a sensor, there is a hole, you put your hand in there and it dispenses cream on your hand. Now the mechanism to dispense the soap, the cream, whatever, is produced on this line. This line is installed in France because France still has quite some industry for healthcare applications. And you see here some of the technologies what we are using. And basically, you see carriers, pallets moving with parts on it, 2 per pallet. And then there are robots or pick and place units which bring parts on these pallets. You see it's taking something and putting it on, in this case, this pin, you see, and then the pin is pressed. And slow process after process, this unit, the dispenser, is being assembled. It's turned, it's flipped over now, and so in the sequence, it is finished. This can be a base, the transport section, and with the concept here, can be a base also for assembly of other products. So to be clear, we are not supplying the products, we're just supplying the machine. The machine comes also with statistics, with information about the performance, about the quality. Here you see the transport. Here you see a pick and place, putting the parts finished in trays. These are the trays. The trays are then, when they are full, then they are replaced and there is a new tray coming in and it's filled up again. So in this sense, a complete project is finished. This is produced, mounted in our entity. The customer comes, there's a pre-acceptance, and then we install that at the customer. I hope that you understood part of my message.